Just going through some old videos of mine that I've taken over the years, and I come across one from the Classic Festival at Pukekohe in 2009 when Kevin Schwantz was racing there. And also after the event he had a bit of a chit-chat with everyone, and I've got that on video, so hopefully you might find it interesting from way back in the day. Cheers.
There's no way I can follow that act. This is going to seem boring to you. Just three things real quick. One was, now we're testing my video, getting ready for it anyway. License, yep. You'd only lose it when you go home and have a chance to drive it home. And that's the good thing about the off season being that short, because they take it for 90 days. I'd get it back just about the time I'd leave to go back racing. Tires, turning tires around.
Yeah.
Ken asked if I wanted a new front tire today. And when I said yes, he had this really stressed out look on his face. And I could see in his mind that's what he was thinking about trying. And the third one is perms. I'm not sure. I don't know, Daryl and I, neither one ever had one plug. It's not to say they weren't in style back in your day anyway, so don't take too big of a beating over it. Hairnets? Absolutely, if you got to.
I've never come across so many policies. Right, just before we start, Kevin.
The other one was an airplane ride. Bring people, the best one I was ever on, coming home from the 8-hour, and it was full of motorcycle racing. We thought they were going to make it land somewhere it couldn't land and throw us all off. We all gathered at the bathroom between economy and business class, and it was an absolute riot.
Okay, now just before we start, I need to do a security check. In the past we've had problems. Where's Noel? Noel? Yes. Have you tied Linda to the chair? Thank you, thank you. You know what happened with Aggo? And this one's younger and isn't married. Poor old Aggo was in rehab for 3 weeks. So if you see a chair moving, make it for the door, okay? You'll have a head start, but she'll still catch you.
She didn't scare me.
She would if you knew her. Oh dear, right. Okay, let's start. What's the difference between a Manx Norton and a work Suzuki?
Depends on what year. All I know is I really like riding my Manx Norton.
And you got used to the rev range, or?
Yeah, you know, there's a big enough line on the tack, and it went up over it a couple times. I guess it's a good thing.
Don't tell Kenny.
No, it's a good thing Ken built in some good tolerances there, because if not, we'd have probably had some trouble today. Only when I was behind the two guys I was chasing, and they spread out, and I got a big tunnel to drive through, and I mean, right on up past 9,000 RPM, and I was like, Ken said this was okay. And it was.
But they haven't the torque band that the Suzukis have they?
Yeah, it's got a much more friendly power band than the RGV 500 that I raced had. But I'm sure some of the older Suzukis are maybe a little more fun to ride than the beasts we used to race.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's one of those things that, yeah, it wasn't the ideal motorcycle to be racing. At least I didn't think it was, and I don't think many of us did. But it was definitely exciting, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, every race that I ever did, I'd do the same way. I mean, I maybe like a few different results, but you can't have everything.
No, no. You won 2 races today, and the 2 races you went out. Is there any truth in the fact that McIntosh has got a contract for you to sign?
Well, actually, Ken's being leveraged a bit right now. Beatty wants a bike from him, and he says he's going to have to wait 2 years. And Daryl says, well, I don't think Kevin's going to be able to race tomorrow then. So, yeah, there's a bit of negotiating. A little blackmail here and there, but great bike.
Yeah.
You know what, it's nice riding the bike that's actually the fastest one in the field. It's been a while since I've had that.
Thanks to Ken, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you started your life off trial driving, didn't you? Do you see that as an important part of training for road racing, or don't you think it has much bearing on it?
No, I think trials riding teaches you all the basics of what makes a motorcycle do what it does. You know, which peg helps weight when you're on an off-camber situation, throttle control, balance, everything that's very, very important to road racing. It's not quite the exact same speed, although some days it feels a little bit slow when you're road racing. But no, I think trials was, and I was lucky enough to be under the tutelage of, at the time, a very young Mick Andrews. My parents were the OSA distributor in Texas, and Mick came over and taught some schools for us. So I had a pretty good instructor, besides my dad as well.
Yes, because your dad used to ride. Unfortunately, he isn't here, but I have some questions, which I'll put to you later.
That's probably why he's not here.
Oh, they were interesting ones, that's for sure. Yeah. The schools that you're in at the moment for young kids, just tell us a bit about that.
Well, the school that I actually run is for people of all ages. We can't take kids under 16 for insurance purpose reasons, but I got to work last year as a coach for the Red Bull Rookies Cup kids in the United States, and I actually rode 125s with them, and never ridden a 125 before. And it's definitely a different beast to ride. You have to get back in the gas in kind of a violent manner because they don't really have that boost of power like a 500 has. So I found myself gradually opening the throttle, and these kids are just going. They come in and they said, "Kevin, what'd you see me doing?" I said, "I couldn't see you long enough. I don't know." Well, next time, slow down a little bit. But, you know, between my riding school and the Red Bull Rookies Cup stuff I did last year, and of course this year they pulled the plug on the project in the U.S. They're still going to run them in MotoGP, so I may get to go over and ride with them every now and then. But you know, it's probably one of the most rewarding things I've done since I quit racing. You know, that was a really rewarding day. To walk away from the sport that had given me so much was very, very tough. It was something that the day that I did it, I wasn't really sure, but I'm glad I did, and now I can get back involved in motorcycling. I've been back involved in it since '98, and to me now I can get back in it and enjoy it at a level that's fun for me.
That was all tied up with Wayne Rainier, of course. Your relationship with Wayne wasn't always as good as it could have been in the early days. Tell us what the situation was there and how that developed.
No, that's all just made up by the media. We, to say the least, we hated each other's guts. You know, we didn't like each other. You couldn't leave us in a room as big as this. Him in that corner, me in that corner. If not, we'd start kind of working our way toward each other, and it was probably going to end up in either a pointing match or a fighting. You know, typically wasn't fighting, but you know, verbal abuse, all that kind of fun stuff. I'm going to kick your ass tomorrow. No, you're not. I'm going to kick yours. But you know, that's the neat thing about the sport that, for me, is such a one-on-one sport. Once you actually get out on the track, it's all about preparation and being ready, having a great team behind you. But it's so much about the rider on that given day. And two guys who hated each other's guts so much, besides the match races in '87, a little bit of superbike racing in '87. Once we got to Grand Prix, I don't think we ever touched. Warren, you still here? We ever see any Pepsi paint or any Lucky Strike paint on the Marlboro bikes? I'm not sure, but Wayne was one of those guys that'd give you space if you needed it. You know, it might not be what he wanted to do, but he knew it was better than the other option, which with someone that was as loose of a cannon as I was riding a 500, he knew better than to try and lean on me, because we'd probably both end up in a heap. And then we'd be really close and we'd probably fight.
93 was your big year. What did you feel like when you actually got so far, got the crown?
Well, it was one of those years that, you know, I think the team that I was with, I think all the guys at Suzuki, the engineers, we had finally done enough testing. We'd finally gotten all our ducks in a row. We had a bike that was competitive. Everywhere we went, we were one of the guys in the top 3 or top 4, and just a lot of good luck. It's one of those things that being the best rider out there and having the best team behind you isn't always something that's going to automatically win you the championship. You've got to execute every weekend. And, you know, Wayne had a bit of bad luck, was injured. We had a crash, I guess I gotta call that a crash because I landed on the ground, but this guy from Australia,
Donington.
Steady, boy, steady.
I kind of get tense when I say his name these days. Knocked me down, and I had a 23-point lead in the championship at that stage in the race. And you know, after that, it was a fight. Wayne's bad luck is something that I wish rather hadn't happened. I'd rather finish second. It you know, it doesn't mean that much.
And on your way back from, I think it was Suzuka, wasn't it, on the plane, you had a sort of defining conversation with him.
Yeah, I guess defining is the right word. He and Kenny Sr. were sitting in first class, of course. I'd never really done anything but peek through the curtains and see what first class looked like. But Kenny came back and said, "Hey, Kevin, Wayne wants to talk to you. Why don't you go sit by him up front?" He goes, "I'll sit back here and talk to your dad." That'd be my dad that's not here. Anyway, he sat there and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" "I'm racing bikes." I actually said, "Right now I'm sitting in business class. What are you doing?" We talked about it a little bit. He goes, "You're racing." He goes, "But you're not having fun doing it." He goes, "You're not doing it because you want to be doing it. You're doing it because you have to be doing it." He goes, "You're not motivated. You're not the same guy that I used to race." He goes, "You continue doing what you're doing." He goes, that's kind of what I was doing in my career. Was I had won 3 world championships. I had nothing left to prove to anybody. And he goes, "Quit while you still can." He goes, "Because I can tell your heart's not in it." And actually, I think B was on the plane with me, weren't you? We got back to Austin. We went to the bar a couple nights, solved a bunch of problems, got ready to go to the test in Harama, and I met Daryl at the house and said, "I ain't going." He goes, "What?" I said, "I'm not going." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, it's done. I can't race anymore." So he flew all the way to Spain on his own after I made a few phone calls and suffered the repercussions of my phone ringing back going, "What?" Everybody was really supportive. My parents were probably the hardest ones to convince about the whole situation, but Suzuki said, "Whenever you're ready, come back. We got a spot for you. Come ride whenever you want." I said, "You know, you can probably go ahead and fill that seat. I don't think I'm coming back." So it was a tough time, but it was you know, I have definitely enjoyed my career.
No regrets?
None whatsoever. A couple races, a couple results.
Now you have a Manx at home, or your father has one in Beaufort.
Yeah, I like the way he calls it ours. I bought it and I gave it to him as a gift. It's his. So, but yeah, I guess there is one in the living room that sits nose to nose with my RGB 500 that I won the championship on. So, kind of cool.
And after this weekend, you think you'll be fettling it a little bit? And
My dad's never ridden it. He lives in the country and he doesn't have any pavement to start it on. So he's got 2 warehouses, but I don't think he can quite get it running. So, I don't know, we may have to put it in a crate, send it over here and let
his lordship have a go at it, yes.
Mr. Manx McIntosh
Yes,
work on it.
yeah.
Maybe we'll ride it here next year.
He's not cheap, but he is the best in the country.
And he's cheap.
He's no good in the city, he's best in the country, believe you me. Oh, come on, think about it. Your mother and father, so your father was telling me, were never really concerned about you injured or anything like that. They were always very supportive of you. Did you feel that through them?
It's easy for him to say now, isn't it? No, absolutely. You know, it was whatever we could do, however I could get back fittest, the quickest. Did I need to get back on the bike? Should I take that risk of maybe a more severe injury because of it? My parents were really supportive of my entire career. Luckily enough, they sold their business, the motorcycle business they had for 25 years, just about the time I started racing professionally. So my mom never really wanted me to race. She said, you can ride them all you want, just I don't want you racing them. Then when I started road racing professionally, I went for a tryout. My dad went with me. We called her from the bar that night, saluting, screaming, yelling, ha, we got the ride. She's like, what? I'm never going to miss another race. Well, she skipped the Japanese in '88. I guess she didn't have much confidence in me. Actually, I know it's not confidence that she didn't have. She just didn't want to fly all the way over there with all those boring people. And we call her Sunday night from the log cabin. And we were having quite a large time there as well. And she swore to never miss another Grand Prix, and I'm not sure she did.
Yeah. No, your dad was saying that you were a bit of a party animal. Apparently, after any of the Grand Prix meetings, they used to go to bed.
Yeah, well, they were my parents. They had to try and set an example for me. Well, the way I looked at it was I probably should go out and celebrate whether I'd won or lost. But I had survived.
Yeah, that's about
riding those animals we used to race.
Tell me about a Porsche and a moving house.
When I was fresh out of high school, still living at home, Mom and Dad's biggest nightmare. I graduated high school in '82, and in 1983, Porsche had a car called the 944. I was working at the shop, making $300 a week, assembling motorcycles and doing whatever I could around the store. And didn't have any expenses. Like I said, I was living at home. My parents paid for the fuel, I paid for the insurance on the car, and I paid for the note on the car. But I didn't do it very long. A buddy of mine and I went out and going down the street to where the parking lot was, where all the kids that I went to high school with hung out. There was a hospital, in the Porsche, there was a hospital being built, and they were taking up a lot of the street where there were already houses. Well, in the city of Houston, you can only move a house after midnight. Well, in this little town inside the city of Houston, you can only move a house before midnight. So they were trying to get the house off this street into the city of Houston, and they had taken and made the turn off of this side street. The back wheels had fallen into the ditch, and the thing was sitting across the street with no lights on it. Right up underneath it.
Where was the windscreen?
The windscreen on my side, for some reason, I had a seatbelt on. The windscreen on my side was cut back to within probably 3 inches of my nose. So it was really close. The joke about it afterwards was I forgot my garage door opener. Garage door opener is what I was trying to say. So, another one of those lives I probably have used up. I'm not sure I got many left.
Just before you go, would you like to earn $10?
That's what you had in your sock. I was trying to figure out who you pinched that from.
The committee spare no expense in these occasions. What I've got to get this $10, you have to answer 4 questions. So let's see whether you've done.
Do I have to pay you 10 if I get them wrong?
Oh, no, we're not that mean. No. Who are the ABs?
Here.
Yes.
All blacks.
Correct. What's the capital of New Zealand?
The politically correct answer is Wellington.
Correct.
But in this group and where we're at, it probably should be awkward.
What are the indigenous people of New Zealand called?
Maoris.
Correct. Who's Ken McIntosh? Correct. Thank you very much indeed.
really driving fast, and there was so much traffic after the race. I think we went 60K or 80K. Wasn't really all that impressive. I guess Caparossi spun it out. Daffy Bugatti said, "Get out of my car. I never want you driving this thing again." But no, I mean it was just driving something that nice, that expensive.
It's hard to go slow. Jumping on something like that.
Neat car though.
Yeah. No, I quite a few of them. I like jumping in.
Nice looking car.
Kevin, I'm using your name in vain. I'm going to spread it around a bit. Is that all right?
Go, I had
This
that number
is
taped to
Kevin
my hand.
Schwantz shout of the evening.
You, Jimmy,
Jimmy Bass.